Hi, my name is Jennifer Ruskoff. I did my model on the articulatory system, so I'm going to turn the camera around so we can get a better look. I bought this foam head, and I kind of wanted to be able to show the bones underneath and also the muscles. So we'll start with the bones. Here's the frontal bone. Here's the maxilla. The maxilla articulates with the frontal bone, the zygomatic bone. So it has the frontal process, the zygomatic process, and then the alveolar process is where the teeth are. And the teeth aren't too accurate in this model, but I tried my best. I'm no artist. And so we turn it around. We have the parietal bone articulating with the frontal bone and the temporal bone. And right here, this little bone is called the sphenoid bone. So the zygomatic bone is also known as your cheekbone, and it articulates with the temporal bone right here to form the zygomatic arch. And so this whole thing right here is the zygomatic arch. So there's a zygomatic process of the temporal bone, which is this part, and then this is where they meet. So moving it a little more, here's the mastoid process on the temporal bone, where a lot of muscles tend to connect to, and the same for the styloid process. On the back, we have the occipital lobe. Don't mind the back lines because they're not too accurate. Again, no, I'm not an artist. Here's the mandible, and the interesting thing about the mandible is not technically part of the cranium, but there's some important parts to it. So here is the ramus of it, the body, and I labeled here, it's the mandibular angle, so kind of where it changes that angle to form your jawline. And it's got two processes in the back. And so this back one is called the condylar process, and the front one is the coronoid process. And I think that covers most of the bones, so let's move around. Here are the muscles. So we'll start with the orbicularis oris, and I didn't write it on this just because it's such a out-sticking muscle in this model because I couldn't get it flat. So the orbicularis oris are the lip muscles, and they go from the corner of the lip to the other corner of the lip, and there's two of them, the superior and the inferior one. And this is a common site of insertion for a lot of muscles. So most elevators insert in the top, and then most depressors insert in the bottom. So next we have the masseter. The masseter is our main chewing muscle. It goes from the zygomatic process of the temporal bone to the angle of the ramus. So we can kind of see where that is on the other side. Moving on, we have the risorius, another cheek muscle. The risorius connects to the masseter and the orbicularis oris right on the corner. And then the other cheek muscle, it's not shown here, it's the buccinator, and it's the deepest muscle, and it connects to the alveolar process of the maxilla. So here, to the back part of the mandible, here, and the orbicularis oris. So over here. And then we've got the zygomaticus muscles. We have zygomaticus minor and zygomaticus major. Zygomaticus minor is actually above major, and it's a lot smaller of the two. So it inserts into the orbicularis oris, and so does the major muscle, but it's a lot bigger. And then we got the levator superioris right here. Levator labii superioris. It's kind of hard to see just because it's underneath all those muscles, but it connects from the infraorbital margin of the maxilla to the upper lip. So it goes from here to your upper lip. Moving down, we have the depressor anguli oris, and The depressor anguli oris is a depressor muscle. It's right in the name. And it connects to the body of the mandible and has the corner of the lip insertion, where I tried to show with this pin here. Moving around. Right here, we have the depressor labii inferioris. And so this is another depressor muscle, and it goes from the mandible to the lower lip. And I tried my best to make it fit within this space, but again, felt is kind of weird to work with on a 3D model. And here is the mentalis, and then mentalis is a super important muscle. The mentalis is the puckering muscle, and it is the most medial. It goes from the mandible to the mental protuberance, and the mental protuberance is the chin. And it's bilateral, like pretty much all of these muscles. I have a few muscles that are missing, but they're just underneath here, so it's okay. All right, thank you for watching. It's been a great quarter.